recording in, well, I don't know how long it actually takes to fire up, but I hit the record button, so. No, I think it's recording right now. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Saturday Morning Coffee, take 3. For those of you who may be tuning in for the first time or the third time, so this is
or the third.
We're going to pretend that the first 5 minutes of the show that we've now done twice in a row, we haven't done yet. So it's all going to be fresh. It's all going to be new. So
didn't happen.
Without further to-do or ado, however, that's supposed to be, I want to turn the floor over to my guest, Anthony, today. Give him a minute or two to introduce himself and let you know what he's all about. So, please.
So, Dan, for the third time, I just want to thank you for letting me on your show. Sincerely. Again, I do really appreciate that you have ran this show for so long, and I have tuned in several times. And again, many of the things that you have said have resonated with me and have helped me a ton. So I think it's of extreme value. And again, I want to thank you for that.
Thank you. I really appreciate your words. They're very kind. And, I got to say, and I feel a lot of people run into this too. Have you ever heard of what's called the Imposter Syndrome?
I have.
So it's this very real sensation for those of you out there who aren't familiar with it. And it's when you're really not sure of what you're doing. You put out good stuff, people tell you they like it, and in your head you feel like you're this imposter. You're impersonating a professional or somebody who's doing some good, and it can really be demoralizing, and in a lot of cases it can actually prevent you from taking risks and taking leaps. And I got to say, as somebody, normal guy like a lot of you out there, even when you're feeling that, don't let it get in your way. Just keep doing what you're doing. Keep putting yourself out there. Keep doing your things, because I had no idea that someone like you, a fellow fitness professional, somebody who I respect in the same field, actually says, hey, I benefited from something you said. Like, that touches me, and that means a lot, and I really thank you. Helps me get out of bed in the morning.
Absolutely, man. And again, I think just like what you said right there, I mean, you have such a way with words and you articulate yourself so well. And not only that, is you're very real. And I think people respect that. And you can sense that, just from watching your show, just the realness, and you're doing within your power, to give back to people, and people can see that. Falling victim to the imposter syndrome, which is, again, very normal thing, which you have the courage to be able to talk about, is huge. And to me, that just shows that you're a fitness professional who is always trying to better themselves. I think when you think like that, like, am I an imposter, or like, is this really of value? You're always just trying to add more value to your clients. So that is huge. I think in a way it's a growth mindset, but like you said, in a way, sometimes that can hold us back. So for me, all I see there is a person that is continually trying to add more value for the people that he touches every day and trains. So I appreciate that, and thank you.
Damn, man, you're gonna make me cry. And as much as I'm appreciating this ego stroking, let's move on. Let's get to the show, and let's give back to the people. So tell us a little bit about your business. What you've been doing for the last 7 years, and I only know 7 years because you've said it twice now.
Well, yeah, I've been in Massachusetts for about 7 years, and again, for those of you who don't know me, my name's Anthony DiPaolo, and I'm a coach, much like Dan. My business is called Sisu Fitness, and we've been in business for 7 years in Massachusetts. We mainly do one-on-one personal training, but we also do nutritional coaching, and we do some small group training as well. But that's pretty much what I'm about. That's my career right now, and I love it. Every day when I wake up, I'm trying to get better at what I do and trying to give back to as many people as I can. To make their lives, and definitely through fitness. Fitness has made a huge positive impact on my life. So I want to share that with other people.
Oh man, fitness making a huge positive impact on your life. I'm really glad you said that, because that brings me to a very interesting point that a lot of people don't know about me. Um, Adopting the fitness lifestyle and deciding that I wanted to teach other people, how to be healthy, how to really be the best versions of themselves, was
Yeah.
probably the best thing that I ever did for myself. Um, a lot of you guys who have been following me for a while, I was not always a very healthy individual, mentally or physically. I was a very heavy set individual when I was younger. The Kraft macaroni and cheese boxes that said serves a family of four. Well, it turns out I was a family of four. But just beyond that, as I grew and got older, started partying, getting into the world of drugs and alcohol, and it was really that switch when I finally decided, what is it that I want to do for the rest of my life? And I decided to marry my passions of educating and fitness and really kind of bring that home. And I got to say, since deciding I wanted to teach fitness, I've been in the best shape of my life. I've been in the best mental headspace of my life. And I think there's a lot to be said about, oh, and that was where the train just derailed.
Maybe
Um,
teaching others, a lot to be said by teaching others.
yes, teaching others and how others teach you a lot about yourself. That's where I was going. Thank you. See, it's great when you have somebody else to bring everything kind of back to where you're getting at. But what I really want to kind of dive into today is we've been dealing with a pandemic, you, me, the whole world, and it's really changed the fitness industry as a whole. And I truly feel that a lot of the changes that we've seen from all this are not going away anytime soon. And I think they're going to have some very long lasting ripples, if you will. So I guess one of the first things I want to touch on is how you doing? How are you doing?
That's a good question, man. I'm doing good, man. Like honestly, and I don't want to take away from the challenges which I faced, but I think you said it the best last time I watched your show. And again, I couldn't have said it perfect. I believe you said something along the lines of, we're all fighting the same storm, but we're in very different boats.
Mm.
I mean, I'm doing good. And I'm fighting that same storm like everyone else, and I'm just doing my best job to keep my boat on course, and try to find calmer waters, So I'm just trying to navigate it, but I'm just doing the best I can. And by all means, there has been some challenging times where I'm hitting some rough waters, other times where the waters seem totally calm, and it's definitely been a roller coaster of emotions. But I'm just doing the best I can, man, every day like anybody else, to just try to steer their boat in the best way they possibly can for themselves.
That's exactly it, right? Just wake up and put your pants on one leg at a time, just like everybody else.
That's it, man. That's it. But overall, again, I feel really blessed. I feel really privileged, to be able to be sitting in the comfort of my living room talking to you. And again, very lucky right now to be healthy.
I do got to say that is something that I try to remember, definitely not to take for granted. I mean, it seemed almost overnight. People in our industry, a lot of industries, not just ours. I don't want to pretend like I'm being selfish here, but this is a fitness show, so we are going to talk about the fitness industry and us specifically.
Ooh.
But with everything getting completely flipped over and turned on its head, gyms shutting down. I mean, the first question is, well, crap. How am I going to put food on my table? How am I going to pay my mortgage, my rent? How am I going to keep everything going? And I got to say that, up until the very last day that my gym was open, I remember I was almost in denial, watching everything kind of unfolding and happening and thinking, oh, it's going to get bad, but it's not going to get so bad. I mean, we never have more than 15 people in here at a time anyways. We'll be able to stay open. We'll go through this. And then we had that first case right down the street. And I remember the day before the announcement came out, I was driving home and I had told myself I was going to stop at the local CVS just down the street from the gym to pick up a couple things. And as I'm coming down the hill, I see everything kind of blocked off and I see police cruisers. Oh, what's going on there? Then there's a big sign that says media entrance this way. Like, wait a minute, why do they need media at a CVS? And then I see the big tent over the front doors and these guys in hazmat suits. And I just think, oh crap, that's it. It's finally here. It's finally hit close enough to home. And sure enough, that was the first reported case in Shrewsbury, Massachusetts. And it was the next day that the owner of the gym said, hey, guys, that's it. I tried to keep us open as long as we could, but we just had a case right down the street. So that's it. We're done. We're closing down. And I had very mixed feelings and mixed emotions about it, because a part of me was like, well, what the crap? Like, this is my way of life. What are you doing? And then the other part of me was like, hell, if we're in the business of wellness, if we're in the business of keeping people healthy, I mean, yeah, it makes sense. We should be shutting down. I mean, let's be honest, gyms are pretty disgusting, dirty places. And that's even when you obsessively clean. So it really did. It made sense. And as much as it hurt, as much as it was crappy, as awful as it was to not see all of my clients every single day anymore, because I'm sure you can attest to this too. It's a lot more than just the fitness. I mean, I get so much out of just the social interaction and being a part of someone's life. I mean, very similar to a school teacher who's with their students, 6 hours a day, 5 days a week. We spend an hour, maybe once or twice a week, or even sometimes more, with these people. And we really get to become part of their lives, like a permanent fixture. So I know I've kind of been rambling here, but I want to kind of throw it back to you with what was going on with you. How were you feeling right as we were kind of leading up to that final day where the hammer came down and they said, that's it, shut down and get out?
Yeah, I think just to touch on some of the things that you said, I think it's very true. And I think as fitness professionals, we experience that. But I also think as just our clients experienced much of the same, so like you said, our clients play such a large role in our individual lives. And I think we play a lot in their lives. So I think once it seemed like everything was uprooted, right? Everyone's lives were uprooted. Everyone's routines were uprooted. The things that anchored them to stay healthy were uprooted. So I think as fitness professionals, that was scary, not only for ourselves, not knowing, as you were saying, we're self-employed individuals, well, at least, I am. So it's you don't have unemployment, so you're thinking about, whoa, I mean, that's scary, right? How are you going to put food on your table? How are you going to pay your mortgage? And how am I going to continue to care for the individuals that rely on me so much, and in return, I rely on them. So I think it was an extremely scary situation. But much as you were saying, you were just, while this was all going on, I think you were just really trying to gather as much information as possible to protect the health and welfare of your clients and be able to continue to manage that. So much like you. That's really what I was trying to do. I had a lot of opinions about it. The information was just so all over the place, where you didn't know really what was going on. So it was very hard to prepare for something when you really just had a lot of mixed messages out there, and it was very hard to decipher. I mean, I had clients very confused about what was going on, how serious this was, should they be concerned? And as a fitness professional, they're leaning on me to really kind of manage that for them. So, I mean, I was just digging deep into the coronavirus hole and just trying to figure out, what's going on here. So right up until they closed everything down, I mean, I could kind of see what was happening. I was trying to look at Italy, what was happening in Italy, trying to see what was happening in China. But just really just thinking about the well-being of my clients. And again, how can I continue to manage their health in the best way possible?
Very, very noble of you, sir. And I mean, I think a lot of people in our industry, in our world, we're doing a lot of those same things. Because you said it very, very well there. We are that interim step between, medical necessity and, living your best life. Because, we're not doing the therapeutic stuff. We're not diagnosing disease, but we're fighting, obesity, we're fighting heart disease, we're fighting, all these other things that negatively impact people's health. So when a health crisis like this happens and people can't get out to go and do their regular routines, the things that keep them moving and motivated, that's a really big issue. And I think this is a perfect segue and jumping point into our next topic is what have you been doing to keep in touch with your clientele? What have you been doing to keep them moving, keep them on their programming, keep them hopeful and exercising?
Dan, that's a great question. And I think this is a question that may help a lot of people out there who are looking for help and looking to stay accountable, not only from the general pop, but maybe it might even help fitness professionals. But like you said, although we may not be diagnosing diseases, I think we are the first line of defense. So, I mean, we are trying to manage people's health so they don't have those things, so they don't get these underlying diseases if they can help it. So I think as fitness professionals, at least for myself, I'm always thinking that like I am the first line of defense and I'm trying to do everything I possibly can to keep my clients as healthy as they possibly can be as I'm working on their individual goals. So when everything got shut down, I had to find ways to do that. How am I going to care for my clients and continually manage their health just like I was doing in the past? So the first thing, I tried to implement and which I was thinking was, I gotta do some type of accountability for them. So many people need, I think if you're going to succeed in anything, I've heard this in the past, that you need two things for the most part, or at least these two things can help aid in you achieving goals. And that's professional accountability and social accountability. And my first question was really like, how am I going to give or continue to give my clients those two things to help them stay as healthy as possible? So the first thing I was thinking about was that professional accountability. How am I going to continue to do that for them? So I started implementing one-on-one Zoom calls. I'm sure much like you're doing now, but that was my first course of action. I said, hey, I got to see these people. Like you said, just being in person with somebody, you learn so much about them. And to be able to see that person, to see how they're doing in such unprecedented times is huge. So I wanted not to only to be able to help program for these people to make sure that they're staying healthy and they're doing their exercises, but also to be able to see them and see how they're doing mentally, and you can see how somebody is doing physically as well. So I thought the one-on-one Zoom call or whatever video call, I didn't even know about Zoom at the time. I learned about Zoom. But yeah, so the one-on-one video calls were huge. And then from there, I was thinking about, well, how am I going to give them that social accountability? So I was lucky enough to already have a system in place where I have a private Facebook group for most of my clients. And through there, we do individual challenges to help keep people feeling accountable and just connected socially. So we still kept doing that. But then at the same time, we started doing group Zoom calls. So whether it was a coffee one the other day where we just all got on a call and we just had a coffee hour and we talked about the things we were going through. We talked about what we were doing to manage our health and wellness. So they still had that community of positive people that, again, was just so uprooted, just so suddenly, so the things that were anchoring them really just got, stripped away. So I did my best and continue to do my best to try to continually give my clients that same level of service, that professional accountability, and as well as that social accountability.
That's really awesome. That's phenomenal. I'd say you definitely hit it right out of the park. You stepped up to a really big challenge, and you delivered that, over delivered that same great experience that you were giving to your clients in person. And I think that's one of the big telling signs that separates a fitness professional from somebody who's just working in the fitness field. And I mean, it is unfortunate. I don't judge anybody, for what they decide to do with their time or how they decide to make their money. But, if we're being honest, there are plenty of people who work in the fitness industry just for the aesthetics and the money. And that underlying sense of community and accountability and being a part of somebody's life is one of the big differentiators in the people who are able to make a career out of fitness versus people who, are just kind of doing it temporarily. So for anybody out there who may be a young trainer, really going through this right now and kind of questioning if they think they're in the right field, especially with how uncertain your finances could potentially look right now, just remember, focus on the community aspect, focus on building your relationships, and that's going to take you so much further, not only business wise, but just growth wise for yourself in here and in here.
Absolutely.
And I got to say, a lot of the same things that you implemented right out of the gate, trying to figure out, all right, how can I do this? That's a lot of the same stuff I did as well. I was also fortunately very blessed that for the last 3.5 years, I had been working on making a digital arm of my business, and I had never pulled the trigger on it because, quite frankly, that whole imposter syndrome thing was like, oh, there's no way this is good enough. Like, this isn't going to work. People aren't going to buy into this. How can I possibly be an effective trainer if I'm not right there with them?
Yep.
And then COVID-19 happened, and it's like, well, I've got all this. I guess it's time to see if it works. And, I was pleasantly surprised that apparently, all that hard work I had done over the course of 3.5 years wasn't utter crap. And I got to say, the other big component there was I was very fortunate and blessed that I had clients who believed in me enough to take the leap of faith to jump over into a completely new format. And I got to say, a couple of them have even said after the fact now, hey, so even when the gyms reopen, can we keep doing this? Because this is super convenient for me.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's funny, but, this really has changed everything for me as a whole. Obviously I'm waiting till Monday when Governor Baker gives us a better idea of where we fall in that phased plan. But for the last 2 months, I've just been hustling and grinding and really kind of building out the digital aspect and branch of Better University. I may as well announce it here. I've been very quiet about everything that's going on, but over the course of the next 6-7 months, I brought a couple people on board onto my team. We're going to be churning out educational courses that get delivered directly to your phone via an app. We're going to be doing a lot more group fitness classes. I've got some meetings coming up with some physical therapists, chiropractors, all sorts of different disciplines out there. And I want to really bring them in and start to create more content that we can deliver to people digitally to keep them engaged, to keep them doing things. Because even when gyms reopen, I strongly feel that a lot of people aren't going to be as comfortable going back into that environment until they're sure, they're certain, they're positive that they are safe, or at least they're safe from, carrying something home to a loved one. I mean, that's the biggest thing though, right there is, a lot of us really healthy individuals, if we get it, it's probably just going to be a really bad cold for us. But knowing that, in my life, I've unfortunately already known a couple people who have succumbed to COVID and passed. But there's also other people in my life, family members and friends who are immunocompromised. And if I were to become asymptomatic and carry that to them, I would never be able to forgive myself. And, I don't want to go too far off on the tangent, but I feel like we can open up a little bit of a can of worms if you're game. And I think the next topic we can kind of jump into is this whole divide on when is it okay to open up? When is it okay to, be in public again and all this? Because we're starting to see some very clear lines being drawn in the sand. And my clients who work with me know that I can be very political on the independent spectrum. Rob, if you're listening, he gets to listen to my rants and my raves. And God bless him for putting
Great
up
guy,
with me.
Ron. So let's just give him a shout out right there. Love that.
But I think if you're game, maybe we can touch a little bit on that, on our thoughts and opinions, without getting too political on it, because as political of a divide as it is, it also isn't. It's a health thing. It has to do with individual responsibility and what being an American was supposed to be about, or at least what I grew up thinking it was about. And I keep hearing all these people talking about how we need to reopen, we need people to be accountable and independent and all this. And I look at that, I say, you're right. And then I look at the people dropping their gloves and their masks in parking lots and doing all this other stuff, and the people who are open carrying arms straight up to the Michigan Senate House. And I'm like, we need this, but I don't know if the majority of Americans are adults anymore. I think a lot of the adults have left the room, and most of us are just petulant children. I mean, maybe that's a really harsh view. Maybe it's a really obtuse view, because generally what we find is it's the people who are the loudest we see, even though they're not the majority. But that's what we're seeing right now. We're seeing the very loud, vocal face of the defiance. So I'll stop kind of rambling on for a little bit. I'll throw that over to you. So what are kind of your thoughts and opinions on some of that stuff that's going on right now?
So we're speaking particularly on the divide that you're saying. You're wanting to speak on the divide, if I'm hearing you right?
Yeah. So we've got a large group of people who say we need to extend the stay at home. We need to be wearing masks in public. Then we have the other people who are talking about their freedoms being infringed upon, and there's very good arguments on both sides, and there's also very poor arguments on both sides. And what I've been finding is that when you start to break it down in the middle, you start to ask yourself, okay, so we infringe on liberty or we infringe on life. We have to infringe on one or the other, and it is going to be a kind of balancing act and a game of figuring out where's the line between those two. And we have these elected officials that we put in power, we put in position to make those tough decisions. And I think a lot of them, especially on the higher levels, are really failing we the people right now with leadership and guidance. So what we're seeing is these very strong political divides happening because there isn't that guidance. And it's almost like we're being pitted against each other, and it's terrifying. I think that's probably the most terrifying part of all of this for me personally.
Yeah, I agree with you. Absolutely, man. Everything you're saying right there. I mean, I would thoroughly agree. But yeah, if you're looking for my opinion on it, I think just as you said that you do tend to hear the loudest on both sides, and you are painted a picture of the extremes on both sides, right? So I just the way I see it now. Granted, I'm no expert in this, so I try to stay in my lane as much as I can. So anything that I'm saying is really just my opinion.
Oh yeah, definitely. I want to highlight that right now for anyone who's watching. These are just opinions. I'm not a scientist. I mean, maybe a scientist of fitness, but I'm not going to pretend I completely understand how pandemics work and all this other fun stuff. So again, I try to listen to the experts as best I can, and more or less I'm forming my opinions on what's happening with the people, not necessarily what exactly is going on a scientific level or on a political level, more just what I'm seeing from my fellow man.
Absolutely, derived from your own individual experiences. That's really all I can really offer. And I think it's a good conversation to have, because I think right now, where we're all so socially in a way disconnected from so many other people, it's good to hear other people's perspectives on what's going on. Maybe to know that you're not the only one thinking these things. So I think it is, being fitness professionals, it is healthy to talk about, to just hear other people's opinions. And again, just taking that in mind, that's all this is our opinions, and they're dependent on our individual experiences. So like basically what Dan was saying is that from what I heard was there's two sides. And again, you have, the extreme on both sides. And what are my thoughts on it? And I do think that we do tend to see those two extremes. So I would completely agree. And, potentially, I think as usual, the way I see it is probably the answer lies, somewhere in the middle, where it's not so black and white. I think you see a lot of a black and white mindset, meaning just, it's either this or that, so, but maybe, the answer lies somewhere in the middle, so there is some gray area there, as far as, infringing on our own liberties. And then as far as, protecting the health and wellness and just the overall well-being of our country and people as a whole. How can we do that? How can we make sure protect as many lives as we possibly can, and be fair about that, without overly infringing on civil liberties, which is, an argument that like you said, you have seen some people draw. And I just think probably like always, there's somewhere the answer lies kind of in the middle where, yes, we are free, right? We are in America, we are free. And there are certain rights that have to be protected, but without, some type of structure, the way I see it. I mean, like it can be anarchy, right? There are already a lot of cases where we looked at things and although we have, certain rights, without some type of regulation, in trying times, it can really lead to, a lot of harm. So I think the answer is probably somewhere in the middle. There's probably some gray area there. And again, that's probably just as probably as far as I want to get into it.
That's perfectly acceptable. I don't really want to go too much further into it either.
Yeah, I don't want to get too far into it, but I just do think that, let's do as a country and as a people. And I think that's all everyone's trying to figure out. I think most people are really trying to, we all have, I feel like we all want the same thing, right? What is best for our country, right? And the individual as a whole, right? What is the best answer, right? Is it extreme social distancing? Is it just go about life as a whole, as it was, to protect the economy more? And then whatever one you're choosing, right? Is that the answer where less people are going to suffer overall? So I think we're just trying to figure that out. And lying if I said, I know the answer to that question is the best way. I don't know that. I mean, I can draw my own conclusions from what I'm hearing. But I don't know, and I think anyone who says that, they know, who is not an expert in this, I don't know. You think we may want to, or at least for myself, I always try to consider, both sides, and I try to weigh it the best I can, and I try not to speak too definitively about anything, for the most part, because I want to keep an open mind.
I'd say if history has taught us anything, rarely in the moment during major historical events is there an obvious right or an obvious wrong. It isn't until decades later when, we've had time to really analyze and consider and, take more facts of the matter, on what was going on at the time, where we can start to draw definitive conclusions. But, it's like trying to find the needle in the haystack. While you're in the haystack, you're just not going to find it. But if years later you wait until, the hay starts to naturally decay and go away, well, all of a sudden, eventually you're just going to be left with that needle.
Absolutely.
It's kind of a weird analogy, but I think it makes sense, right?
No, it totally works. And, and this saying, hindsight is 20/20, right? So we learn from our experiences, and this is definitely an experience that I hope we learn from as an individual and as a country, as we learn from this, and we analyze it. As that hay starts to decay, we start analyzing. We can see the picture a little bit more, and what went wrong, what went right, and then in the future, we're protecting everybody to the best of our ability.
Yeah, and that's where history is plays an important part. It's something for us to learn from, and tying that kind of now that we've gone off on our tangent, let's tie all this back into personal wellness and fitness and health, because
Absolutely.
what would be a great tangent if it didn't actually have a point or some way to ground it in our reality.
Absolutely.
So we look at history as the greatest teacher, the greatest lesson. Well, I mean, a lot of that can be said for your past as well. When you're in the moment, when you're going through something, let's say you're starting a fitness program, or you've been on your fitness journey for years. When you're in the moment, it's very hard to see the benefit. It's very hard to see anything outside of what is going on. So any setback, any failure is going to feel tenfold. But when you fast forward 10 years and you look back at it, you can see the struggle, you can see the journey as a lesson, as an educational tool, as something that brought you from A to B. And so that's where we're going to parallel this for today, is recognizing that everything you're experiencing right now in health and fitness, being in a situation where your normal routines have been upended, and everything's been just jostled and thrown around. Remember that as dark as things may look, as off as your routine may be, these are the moments, these are the times in which you're going to learn the greatest lessons about how you can keep yourself moving forward, about how you can make the best choices given, the worst possible, scenarios. So remember that for right now. This is a trial, this is a test. These are the moments that are meant to help you define yourself, that you can look back on. And the next time you're faced with a challenge, you'll recognize it as, oh, well, I already conquered this. Like, this is fine. This is easy. I got this. So before we wrap up today, do you have any thoughts that you want to kind of tie in with that?
Yeah, man. Again, like, you have such a way with words, and you articulate yourself so well. I mean, I couldn't have said that and tied that all together better myself. I think everything you're saying is true. I mean, like, these are, again, very trying times, and we can learn from them, and you can learn from your past. So I think, I'm big on mindfulness. So, let's say you start learning from different challenges that you've faced, and how you've either risen to them, or maybe you found yourself sinking a little bit, and just trying to kind of have that daily awareness of what is going on in your life, and what is working for you and what is not working for you. So I think there's a lot of ways right now that people can navigate that for themselves, and try to again, steer their ship, like we were talking about earlier, the best way they possibly can. And one thing that I've been trying to implement with my clients is that, think about, if you're not doing it already, I do find a lot of value in it for myself, is when you wake up in the morning, ask yourself, and I'll take a piece of paper, and I've been doing this for a while now, and it's helped me a lot, is one, I plan my entire day out. Before I go onto the phone, I'm trying to plan everything that I want to do that day out. But I start with asking myself the question, how do I feel? And I'll read it out. So how do I feel today? Feeling very anxious, overwhelmed, behind, tired, and then I can learn from yesterday just by writing that out. So if we're talking about learning from the past, you have to reflect on the past. So starting your day reflecting on how you feel, because often how you feel can be very dependent, for myself at least, on what I did in the past. So if you find yourself maybe watching too much news, staying up extremely late at night, and you're waking up in the next day and you're like exhausted, tired, anxious, nervous, maybe, hey, I might look at, when I was planning my day, and I might look at yesterday, what time I went to bed, how much news I was really subjecting myself to, and is that working out for me? So from your past experiences. And I just find that if you can do that, that habit first thing in the morning, and again, you have to meet yourself, at least I feel for myself, I have to meet myself with where I am. But where I am right now is, again, if I can start my day asking myself how I feel, and then trying to think about how I would spend my day, right? Optimally. How do I want to spend my day? How do I want to spend my time? Write everything out, every minute of that day, how I want to spend that day, and just see, are my actions in line with my goals? Or am I really starting to drift and get pulled away from these things with all these modern day distractions, right? Like the news or, the emails or the phone calls and the Instagram, the social media, right? And these things actually may be taking away from our happiness. And they may actually be taking away from the day that really would be fulfilling if we followed it. So again, just learn from your past experience. Make sure that have that attitude. I think that is a kind of like a warrior mindset where everything that you're facing is a challenge. You're viewing that as a challenge instead of, either a blessing or a curse. You are viewing everything as a challenge, the good times and the bad times. And like you said, we're all facing the same storm, but we're in different ships. So I would never judge anyone, for sinking during a challenge. I think we're all just trying to do the best we can. And potentially these little tools like planning your day or asking yourself how you feel, hopefully that may help somebody. So that's why I just wanted to share that with somebody and just kind of tie that all in together, where these are a few things that I think potentially if you implemented may help you a ton, and it has helped me a ton. That's all I hope to share.
That was phenomenal. That was amazing. I refuse to follow that with any more information because I think that is the perfect note for everybody to end on. And yeah, exactly what you said. Guys, practice little things to help you keep yourself aware of what's going on within yourself.
Absolutely.
Man, that's great. Actually, may start implementing some of that stuff myself.
I hope, man. Give it a shot. You experiment, and I feel like if it works for you, keep doing it. And if it doesn't work for you, don't keep doing it. But my favorite question to ask my clients is, how is that working out for you, right? And if you ask yourself that question often, hopefully you can dial in your life or that boat that works, and make those waters a little bit more calm. How is that working out for you? And I hope everybody, during these challenging times, finds a way to continue their pursuit of health and wellness. Stay accountable to yourself. Reach out to professionals, to help you stay accountable, and and try to keep that community tight of positivity. Keep that positivity in your life. And again, that's why I got to thank you again, Dan, for doing this right now, because you are spreading positivity and you are sharing that world, and you are sharing your insight, and you're doing it right now at no cost. You're sharing this free information. So again, I thank you for it, and I hope somebody else benefits from me being on the show in some way, shape, or form. So again, thank you for doing it, and it really was a pleasure to be on the show.
Well, thank you, Anthony. I really enjoyed having you as a guest today, and quite honestly, I can see in the future we would love to have you back again. And yeah, maybe there's even some projects that we can work on together that could be mutually beneficial to to us and to our clients. So thank you for coming on the show today. And hey, everybody, thanks for watching. This has been Saturday Morning Coffee. I hope you had a great, glorious morning with us. Or, well, obviously, since you're going to be watching the replay at this point, because we're not live, by the way. I hope that all the information that you got out of this, something stuck with you and something's going to help you out either today, tomorrow, or sometime in the future. So once again, thanks, everybody, and have a great day.
Absolutely. Stay safe, stay healthy.